Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I have a fun one. We are going to be talking about my younger sister's diagnosis and common misconceptions and kind of just everything around that for a bit. So without further ado, let's get started. So Angelina has a rare diagnosis called orofacial digital syndrome. So there's two different types of ways of saying it, but we just say orofacial digital syndrome type 1. So in the diagnosis, there's 10 different kind of branches or types, but Angelina has the rare kind, which is type 1. So what it basically does is the X gene or the X chromosome is the one that is affected, and because girls have two, there's typically a higher success rate of survival for women having this diagnosis. So what it is there is a chromosomal defect or mutation in the X chromosome. So typically there are female survivors. There can be male survivors. I'm not sure of any, but like I said, it is a rare diagnosis. But the other forms, the type 2 through 10, are the more rarer conditions, but Angelina only has rare type 1. I'm going to focus more on the symptoms that she presents with that has characterized her to fall under this diagnosis of OFDS type 1. So starting with oral, so Angelina's oral cavity, so typically the patients show a split lip, but Angelina does not have a split lip. She does have a higher cleft palate though, so basically that's the roof of your mouth, but for Ange, hers is significantly higher, and she does have a lobe tongue or split tongue. It's basically a deformed tongue, so she has a harder time speaking because her tongue is smaller and her palate is higher. So when you talk, if you pay attention to it, your tongue actually touches the top of your roof or the tip of your mouth quite frequently. So for Ange, that's a lot harder for her. And there's also dental deformations is what they say, which basically is like a smaller jaw and more or less teeth. Some patients have less teeth. Angelina tends to have more teeth, and instead of it just being a straight line, hers tends to have sporadic teeth, especially near the front for her. So that's kind of the oral portion of it. She also had like other nodules and stuff that kind of got taken care of during birth, but for the most part, that is the oral kind of syndrome or the symptom, sorry. And then we move on to facial. So there's different ways that it can present. So for Angie, she tends to have like smaller features. So she has a smaller nose and smaller eyes. So for Angie's eyes, she actually was born with gorgeous, big, beautiful eyes, but because of her being on a CPAP machine and all of that stuff when she was younger, she just has a higher risk of getting, I think it's called cataracts, but basically she had to get her eyes sewn up a little bit more just so that she could close her eyes fully and not have any more complications. But yeah, she used to have really, really big, beautiful eyes, so now they're small, beautiful eyes. But Angelina has that for her facial factors, and then for her digital factors, so that's basically your hands and your toes. So Angie has, if you look at her, she has very small hands and feet, almost childlike, people will say, which I absolutely adore and love because they're like yay big, which is really cute. So 2 of her fingers on each of her hands were joined together, so they're called webbed fingers. And she doesn't have joints in one of her fingers in each hand. So making a fist is hard because she can't bend her finger fully, so it would look like that if she were able to do it. But she had the surgery when she was, again, like within the first 6 months of her life, she had the surgery to split it, so her fingers do look the same now, as everyone else's rather, but she does have significantly smaller fingers and toes. So in a nutshell, before I go off on a tangent, Angelina's kind of symptoms, those were her significant ones. Now with OFDS, there's also other like cognitive and physical developmental delays that come with it. So for Angie, the biggest one is Angie's actually missing her corpus callosum. So if you don't know what that does, it's basically the piece in your brain that joins the two hemispheres, so your left and your right brain, and it basically helps your two hemispheres talk to each other. So when it comes to walking, talking, doing anything bilaterally, so across that center line, that's all stuff that's really hard for her to do, but over the past 17 years, she's actually learned and developed special neuron connections and neural pathways for her to communicate and actually become stronger and be able to do those things like walking and being able to understand how to communicate and how to do like bilateral movements and all of these other factors. So that is what she has learned and developed over the years. That is a bit of OFDS in a nutshell. But Angelina also has a diagnosis of autism. So as most people by now probably know, autism is a spectrum, so it has a large range. So Angelina is quite flexible, but there are a lot of times where having structure or routine really help her be more successful in situations, whether it's in school or whether it's out in public, like waiting in a line, or just having like clear outlines. And quite frankly, I think that's like every one of us. I'm not saying everyone's autistic. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that we all could benefit from, and it's just, I feel a little bit more heightened for Ange, is that she just prefers it a little bit more frequently than others. So yeah, that is kind of the majority of her diagnosis, if you will. But I wanted to do a bit about Angie as who she is as a person, because I know there's a lot of people that might be curious about her diagnosis, which is why I wanted to share that with you guys, and I wanted to educate as many people as I can. By no means am I saying I'm an expert, but I'm just wanting to share the information that we know and that our family has learned over the years, and spread it to anyone who's watching, so that if you guys are struggling with or know somebody and you want to be able to connect with them better, so maybe these videos will help you connect with them or learn something new or learn something exciting that you can do with them. So yeah.